Liu Monghong granted bail as perversion of justice case adjourned. Security beefed up in Jinan ahead of the trial of Bo Xilai. And Taiwan bracing for a powerful storm.
Hello and a very good evening. Former Deputy Chairman of Pearl Oriental Oil and Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying's ex-ally Liu Monghong appeared in court this morning to face a charge of perverting public justice. No plea was taken and the case has been adjourned until September 4th. Liu has been released on $200,000 bail and is not allowed to leave Hong Kong. Rachel Leung reports.
Liu Monghong would not comment on his case when he emerged from Eastern Magistracy after being granted bail. But he cited a famous quote by Qing Dynasty official Lin Jie-shu, "History will be the judge." He also cited former Chinese Communist leader Liu Xiaoqi saying, "The good thing is that history is written by the people." Liu is charged with performing acts tending and intended to pervert the course of public justice. No plea was taken today. The case has been adjourned until September 4th and will be transferred to the district court. Liu has been granted bail of $200,000. He's not allowed to leave Hong Kong and cannot contact any of the witnesses, including his former secretary. Liu was arrested by the ICAC in January this year as part of an investigation into Pearl Oriental Oil. He then allegedly sent emails to Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying and ICAC Chief Simon Pei, as well as a letter to the CE which was copied to Pei, seeking termination of the investigation into him and others. He was said to have referred to his past dealings and association with Leung in trying to call for a stop to the ICAC probe by means of threats or intimidation. 19 people, including 6 ICAC officers, are expected to be called to the witness stand during the trial. It's understood that the chief executive and the ICAC chief are not on the witness list. Rachel Leung, TVB News.
The corruption trial of former Chongqing Party Secretary Bo Xilai will open in Jinan in Shandong Province tomorrow. Final preparations are underway, and mainland authorities have allowed unusually open media access to the hearing in what is one of the country's biggest political scandals. Jenny Lam reports.
Authorities have beefed up security outside Jinan People's Intermediate Court on the eve of the trial. Former Chongqing Party Secretary Bo Xilai, formerly also a Politburo member, is accused of taking bribes, embezzlement and abuse of power. His wife, Gu Kai-lai, is serving a suspended death sentence for the murder of British businessman Neil Haywood. The former Chongqing Police Chief, Wang Lijun, was also sentenced to 15 years in prison for covering up the murder. The Bo family was highly influential in Chongqing. Today, supporters of Bo Xilai debated whether his contribution while in office should be recognized. Hearing is scheduled to start at 8:30 a.m. tomorrow. The Reuters news agency quoted sources as saying the charge of abuse of power against Bo relates to his flouting the authority of the leadership in Beijing. Reuters reported yesterday that hearing could start in secret today because of the sensitivity of the allegation. But there was no immediate sign today that a secret session of the trial had started. Bo Xilai's alleged crime came to light before the 18th Communist Party Congress late last year, and since then, President Xi Jinping has been in power for nearly a year. Commentator Willie Lam sees a positive outcome for the government.
Bo Xilai represents the Maoist or conservative faction within the Chinese Communist Party. So the fact that he's gone to jail means that the Maoist faction might become less powerful. This is a good thing for President Xi Jinping, who espouses a more moderate political line. So I think the fact that he has been able to manage this very well, this will act to consolidate Xi Jinping's power, and perhaps this might lead to a more stable factional relationship amongst the power blocs within the party.
In Jinan today, a woman tried to make use of the media attention to focus on injustices against herself, only to be dragged away by police. Journalists are busy jockeying for places at a nearby hotel where news about the Bo Xilai trial will be announced. The mainland's version of Twitter, Sina Weibo, even promised to carry the court proceedings live. Current affairs commentator Kwan Hing Ling believes the involvement of slain British businessman Neil Hayward and the subsequent international attention given to Bo Xilai's family have forced mainland authorities to be transparent about the case. Jenny Lam, TVB News.
Taiwan is bracing itself for a powerful storm. Typhoon Trami is expected to be closest to the island within the next hour. The storm has already been blamed for the deaths of at least 2 people there. Northern Taiwan taking a hit as Trami approaches. Here in Keelung, heavy waves battled the shore. And tragedy in Hsinchu. An elderly woman who was riding a motorcycle died when she was swept away by floodwaters. In Taipei, all schools were suspended this afternoon and some rail services were shut down. Heavy rain has been forecast for many areas on the island. The mainland is also bracing itself for the storm. Authorities have issued the second most severe orange warning for Trami. The National Meteorological Center expects the typhoon to make landfall in Fujian province tonight. Dozens of flights between Hong Kong and Taipei scheduled for today have been cancelled because of the storm. Scores of passengers were affected. Cathay Pacific says it will run additional flights tomorrow between Hong Kong and Taipei. It will also add more capacity on 2 pairs of flights using larger aircraft. And the airline warns flights from Hong Kong to Shanghai could be disrupted because of Trami.
British opposition politicians are accusing officials of twisting a law designed to prevent terrorism in order to muzzle journalists from revealing more damaging information about British and US government secrets. Citing anti-terrorism laws, Britain's Home Secretary says officials did the right thing when they took action to prevent stolen data from being made available to terrorists. Sonia Artero reports.
Ever since a Guardian reporter began exposing the leaked files of Edward Snowden containing US and UK secrets, intense pressure has come to the Guardian newspaper. That pressure boiled over on July 20th when staff at the Guardian's London office were forced to pulverize the hard drives and memory chips in question.
And they said you had to destroy this, this and this on a computer in order to make sure that it can never be read or recovered. And so we had this slightly bizarre scene where, under their instruction, we disabled the computers.
If that wasn't enough, British officials seized more files carried by Guardian writer Glenn Greenwald's Brazilian partner, David Miranda. Responding to Miranda being detained for 9 hours while transiting to another flight at Heathrow Airport, this British politician says authorities were right to do so.
I think it's right, given that it is the first duty of the government to protect the public, that if the police believe somebody has in their possession highly sensitive, stolen information which could help terrorists, which could lead to a loss of lives, then it is right that the police act.
A British lawyer representing Miranda plans to file a suit to question the legal basis of his detention. Also crying foul are human rights lawyers, press freedom groups, and British opposition politicians who believe a terrorism law was purposely misused to silence the messenger.
Protecting the country against terrorism, protecting our national security is so important that people have to have confidence that powers aren't being misused.
Items confiscated from Miranda reportedly contain NSA and British surveillance of public telephone numbers and internet traffic. Both the U.S. and Britain claim they acted within established laws to prevent leaks that threaten national security. Sonia Artero, TVB News.
Local reporters and journalist associations say recent incidents involving the Guardian newspaper have seriously undermined press freedom worldwide. And as Rani Samtani reports, this has prompted renewed calls for freedom of information legislation here in Hong Kong.
Stephen Vines, a Hong Kong-based journalist and a former reporter for The Guardian, said the situation is alarming and that he has never seen such actions taken to put pressure on a story. Despite British authorities using anti-terrorism legislation to justify the 9-hour detention of David Miranda at Heathrow Airport, Vines believes it was just an excuse to suppress press freedom.
I've certainly seen pressure on media companies to give up their sources, but I've never seen the kind of thing that we saw at Heathrow Airport. It's very chilling in a country like Britain, which actually has a much more open society. I mean, much more open than Hong Kong, for example. There's Freedom of Information Acts and all these things in place, which we don't have here.
The International Federation of Journalists also called the situation worrisome.
We are very disappointed about the UK government that they blatantly to use their power, or maybe we can say abuse their power, to force the media to hand over or destruct those of the journalistic materials. We are very afraid that similar case will be happened in Hong Kong, because in the past number of the years, we noticed the press freedom of Hong Kong is regressing.
The Hong Kong Journalists Association says the British authorities acted unreasonably. Chairperson of the association, Sham Yi Lan, says she fears journalists won't be able to do their jobs if they can't protect their sources of information. Journalists say there's the need for freedom of information legislation to protect press freedom in Hong Kong before enacting laws to protect national security under Article 23 of the Basic Law. Rani Samtani, TVB News.
We turn now to what police say is a suspected case of thrill killing in the U.S. 3 teenagers were arrested in the state of Oklahoma in connection with the shooting death of an Australian student attending university there. 2 of the suspects have now been charged with first-degree murder. Police say they opened fire just because they got bored. NBC News reports.
22-year-old Christopher Lane was out for an afternoon jog in the streets of Duncan, Oklahoma Friday when a car pulled up beside him and someone opened fire. Witnesses say Lane was shot in the back and fell to his knees. He was pronounced dead at a hospital.
This is not something that we see happen here, and I'm going to do everything that I can to ensure that we see these 3 thugs pay for what they did to Christopher Lane.
The Australian was in the U.S. to pursue his passion, baseball, attending East Central University in Ada, Oklahoma on a baseball scholarship. Police arrested 3 teenage suspects who they say have no connection to drugs or gangs. Duncan Police Chief Danny Ford says they had a more chilling motive. As was stated by the 17-year-old, we were bored, we had nothing to do, we decided we'd kill somebody. The suspects, ages 15, 16, and 17, were in Stevens County Court this afternoon. All have been charged as adults. Thousands of miles away in Melbourne, Australia, Lane's parents and family are stunned.
The way it was taken away is so pointless, just so pointless.
We were lucky that he was here for that period of time.
Christopher's girlfriend, Sarah Harper, lives in Duncan and is devastated.
This is where his final moments were. So it means a lot to me when people care.
She started a Facebook page in tribute to his memory. She wrote, "You will always be mine, and in a very special and protected place in my heart." Tonight in Duncan, people are leaving flowers and condolences at a makeshift memorial. And across the sea in Melbourne, they're doing the same. Randy McElwain, NBC News, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
And still ahead in the news, a new committee to review hospital authority operations. Victims of Manila tour bus tragedy to seek compensation through Hong Kong court. And legislators under fire for going on an airline-sponsored trip.
We're back tonight with more local news. A new committee has been set up to review the hospital authorities' operations. As Evelina Leung reports, the new body will tackle issues relating to an ageing population here in Hong Kong.
The government announced today the setting up of a steering committee headed by Secretary for Food and Health Ko Wing Man. Committee members include healthcare professionals, academics, members of business, welfare and patient rights groups, as well as frontline hospital staff. Ko said the main purpose of the committee is to ensure the hospital authority will be able to provide quality and effective services as the population continues to age.
The review will cover HA's management and cluster arrangement, resource allocation, the service levels, and its overall cost effectiveness.
The health chief also hopes to engage the public in the decision-making process.
Ko Ing-man said focus groups will be set up to gather opinions from the public on the issues the committee should look into, and he hopes the committee will be able to hold its first meeting next month.
The hospital authority was set up in 1990 and manages the city's public hospitals. Evelina Lang, TVB News.
A group of survivors and family members of the victims plans to formally seek compensation from the Philippines tomorrow over the deadly Manila bus hostage tragedy 3 years ago. As Jenny Lam reports, many are still suffering from its aftermath 3 years on.
Yik Xiuling has undergone a number of surgical operations ever since being shot in the jaw during the Manila hostage crisis 3 years ago. She still has trouble eating and speaking, and when she tried going out without a face mask, she said people would stare at her. As much as we want to put all this behind us, we don't want to give up seeking justice, she says. She's met with other survivors and families of other victims. They plan to file a writ tomorrow here in Hong Kong against the Philippine government as well as former Manila Mayor Alfredo Lim. Representing the families, legislator and lawyer James To says they have sufficient evidence pointing to negligence on the part of different Philippine officials over the way they handled the crisis. By law, the third anniversary of the shooting this Friday is the deadline for them to seek compensation. As much as they would like more time to talk to the Philippine government, for those deeply scarred by the tragedy, it is now or never. Jenny Lam, TVB News.
A group of legislators has come under fire for going on a trip to France, sponsored by Cathay Pacific Airways. They've denied suggestions of a conflict of interest. 7 lawmakers from the both pro-establishment and pro-democracy camps took part in the 4-day trip that ended yesterday. Among them, James To and Albert Ho of the Democratic Party. Both said they will declare the trip in accordance with established mechanism. To believes the visit was related to his public service because it involved Cathay's investment. Another lawmaker who made the trip, Lee Kwok Kim of the Democratic Alliance for the Betterment and Progress of Hong Kong, wants critics to spell out how there might be a conflict of interest. A retired ICAC officer has called for an apology from those who complained to the anti-graft agency about former executive councillors Barry Cheung and Franklin Lam. He claims the investigation, which was called off because of insufficient evidence, wasted the agency's time. Evelina Leung reports.
Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying isn't the only one calling for an apology from those who complained to the ICAC about 2 former executive councillors, Franklin Lam and Barry Cheung. The ICAC's Retired Officers Association echoed Leung's comments, saying that the complainants should say sorry for wasting the agency's time and resources.
If they complain before the ICAC starts its investigation, already make known to the general public that someone will be the subject of investigation by the ICAC, then that person's reputation must, I think, must be tenuous. I think they should apologize.
Ricky Hui also hopes the government and the public can continue to support the ICAC so it can continue its investigations in a just and fair manner. Meanwhile, the agency's Operations Review Committee also dispelled fears the ICAC could become a political tool. Evelina Lang, TVB News.
And now Elmer Leonard, a former ad man who later became one of America's greatest crime writers, died yesterday at the age of 87. Leonard wrote more than 40 crime novels that typically featured pathetic schemers, clever conmen and casual killers. Some of those novels, notably Out of Sight, Get Shorty and Be Cool, were made into films. Leonard died of complications from a stroke. All right, Tony, what's in sports today?
Well, we've got baseball, we've got some football, and we've also got an interesting story about Hong Kong's equestrians preparing for the National Games, which is later in the fall. But let's begin this segment first with baseball, and Paul Goldschmidt's stellar season for Arizona keeps on going, while the Yankees are celebrating a successful doubleheader against the Toronto Blue Jays.
New York and Toronto clashed in a doubleheader which saw the Yankees stage a late rally to sweep both games. In the second game, Jason Nix hit a tying homer to make it 2-2 in the 7th inning.
First pitch home run.
He then hit a game-ending single in the 9th, lifting the Yankees to a 3-2 win in their ninth match. It was their second comeback victory over the Blue Jays after beating them 8-4 earlier in the day. Elsewhere, Paul Goldschmidt set a club record with his third Grand Slam of the season for Arizona. Grand Slam is a home run with all 3 bases occupied by base runners, thereby securing 4 runs for Arizona. Sure enough, that effort in the 8th powered the Diamondbacks past the Cincinnati Reds and onto a 5-2 victory.
On to football now, and Arsenal are looking to get their season back on track when they take on Turkish side Fenerbahce in their Champions League qualifier later tonight. They had a disastrous start to their Premiership campaign when they lost 3-1 to Aston Villa last weekend. Gunners boss Arsene Wenger is under pressure to sign new players to strengthen the squad and said he would do in due course.
You know, a squad has to have the right number. Not enough players is not good. Too many players is no competition anymore, is not good as well. And we will have the right balance when the transfer market closes, don't worry.
Well, the Hong Kong equestrian team left for Beijing today to prepare for the upcoming National Games. As Stephanie Choi reports, they're hoping to replicate the success of previous athletes who won medals for the SAR.
4 local athletes will be competing in the team show jumping event on September 2nd. They're also looking to qualify for the individual show jumping event.
We have a very strong team. We've won medals together already, so that's a very good thing. We know each other very well off the field as well as on the field, so that's it always makes it easier to bond as a team.
Jacqueline Lai, Samantha Lam, Kenneth Cheng and Patrick Lam did Hong Kong proud in the 11th National Games back in 2009, bringing home gold and bronze individual medals as well as a bronze team medal. Will they do it again this time in Shenyang, Liaoning?
We've been training in Europe for quite a while, matching top riders at top competitions, which gives us an advantage.
And over the next 3.5 years, the Hong Kong Equestrian Foundation will receive a sponsorship of over 70 million Hong Kong dollars. The Hong Kong equestrian team say they would not have made it this far without the support of the government and commercial sector. However, it will be interesting to see just how much of these funds from sponsorships go into promoting equestrian games among youth in Hong Kong. Stephanie Choi, TVB News.
And we wish them the best of luck.
Yes, indeed. That's the news for tonight.
Thanks for watching. Good night.
Good evening. It was hot today with some sunny periods. And as tonight's situation chart shows, showers are affecting the eastern part of Guangdong. Severe tropical storm Chami has intensified into a typhoon. At 5 p.m., Chami was centered about 100 kilometers northeast of Taipei. It is forecast to move west-northwest at about 25 kilometers per hour across the seas north of Taiwan, in the general direction of the coast of Fujian. Today's temperatures range from 27.4 to 31 degrees, and the relative humidity was between 71 and 91%. Winds are light to moderate west to northwesterlies. The current temperature is now 30.5 degrees Celsius, with the relative humidity standing at 75%. 0.2 millimeters of rainfall has been recorded since midnight. So Freddie, how's the weather tomorrow? It will be cloudy with a few showers tonight. Showers will become more frequent and there will be a few squally thunderstorms tomorrow. Temperatures will range between 26 and 30 degrees. There will be squally showers and thunderstorms on Friday and Saturday. Tomorrow's API is forecast at 45 to 165 and the pollution level will range from medium to very high. And the maximum UV intensity forecast for tomorrow will be about 4. And here's the latest global weather update. Showers in Shanghai, rain in Taipei and Xiamen. Rain in Guangzhou, sunny in Chengdu. Cloudy in Beijing, Seoul and Tokyo. Thunderstorms in Bangkok, rain in Ho Chi Minh City and Manila. Showers in Kuala Lumpur, thunderstorms in Singapore, rain in Jakarta. Thunderstorms in New Delhi, showers in Mumbai. Sunny in Cairo. Sunny in Brisbane, bright in Sydney, showers in Auckland. Showers in Toronto. Sunny in Vancouver, bright in Los Angeles. Cloudy in London, sunny in Zurich. And that's the weather. Have a lovely evening.